The monsoon clouds had not yet broken when the tiger named Rian stepped out from the dense sal forest and into the narrow bamboo ravine that sliced the land like an old scar. He moved silently, his paws spreading the weight over soft earth darkened by humidity, his whiskers lifting as he tested the air. The ravine was a dangerous passage even for a tiger, tight, echoing, and filled with scents that did not belong to the wild alone. It was a shortcut used by both animals and men, and Rian had learned early in life that when paths between the two overlapped, something usually died. A faint metallic rattle drifted from ahead. Not loud, not hostile. A chain, gently tapping against a rock in the wind. Rian stopped. His ears shifted independently, sweeping the ravine for subtle vibrations. The forest beyond the cliffs was alive with cicadas, macaques, distant peacocks. Nothing unusual, but the chain meant humans. And humans, unlike the forest, did not speak through scent or rustle. They changed the land by simply stepping on it. Rian pressed forward, body low. The bamboo grew thicker, forming green walls. The ravine narrowed to a single winding corridor where even the breeze hesitated to pass. As he neared the source of the sound, the air shifted sharply, the pungent odour of engine oil, plastic, fresh sweat, a human presence. More than one. The tiger paused again, blinking slowly, not from fear, but calculation. His territory had been shrinking for years. A new road to the south, expanding villages to the east, a logging project proposed but stalled. Tigers survived by adapting. Rian adapted more than most. Up ahead, a man crouched near the ravine wall, struggling to pull a motorbike out of thick mud. His left boot was stuck, his hands trembling slightly as he pushed and pulled. He cursed softly, unaware he was not alone. Rian recognized this particular scent, not the man, but his purpose. A forest guard, one of the anti-poaching patrols. These humans were different. They did not carry the smell of desperation or violence. They walked with caution, not greed. Rian stayed hidden, watching. The man's radio crackled. "Patel, do you copy? We found evidence near the old elephant trail. Need backup." The man sighed, tried again to free the bike, and failed. "Copy, I'm stuck in the ravine. Give me 10 minutes. He would not have 10 minutes. Further down the ravine, the forest changed again. Not in scent, not in sound, but in silence. A kind of silence that Rian associated with hunters. Men who walked lightly, not like villagers gathering firewood. Men who smelled of metal and sweat tinged with the faint sweetness of tobacco. Men who pointed hollow sticks that coughed fire and left animals leaking life onto the leaves. Rian stepped back into shadow as two figures emerged from behind a bend in the bamboo. Their rifles were wrapped in cloth. Their footsteps were deliberate. They were poachers, moving slowly, looking for signs of patrol. They did not expect a tiger. Few poachers did. Rian knew their type well. He'd heard the staccato thunder of their weapons many times over his life. Sometimes the thunder ended with nothing but fear. Other times it ended with death. The forest guard, Patel, finally pulled his foot free from the mud with a wet snap and turned toward the path, straight toward the approaching men. His eyes widened when he saw the rifles. One of the poachers hissed, "Move quietly, take him." Rian felt the shift in tension as clearly as a vibration through the soil. The ravine had become a trap. For the guard, for the poachers. For him, there was no space here for a chase, only confrontation. Patel raised his hands. "Don't do this. Put the guns down. We can talk." One poacher stepped forward, the barrel lifting. The bamboo around them shuddered with a sudden gust. The ravine held its breath. Instinct, old and primal, anchored Rian in place. He had not come to protect anyone. Tigers did not bend their paths for the conflicts of men, but the gun was angled wrong, towards something that did not belong in a tiger's forest. A threat in his territory was a threat to all. The first poacher fired. The bullet struck the cliff wall in a burst of dust. Patel had thrown himself sideways with desperate agility. The second man swung his rifle around, shouting. Rian moved. It was not a dramatic leap, not the roaring assault painted in myths. It was swift, efficient, and quiet until the very last moment. His paws barely touched the ground. His muscles sent him forward in a single low surge. The poacher nearest him turned only in time to widen his eyes before Rian's weight collided with him. The man fell backward, rifle clattering across stone. Patel scrambled behind the motorbike, reaching for his radio with shaking fingers. Shots fired! Shots fired in the ravine! The remaining poacher fired blindly. The crack thundered through the bamboo. Birds erupted from the trees in a frenzied wave. The bullet grazed Rian's flank, slicing fur and skin. Pain flared, but pain meant little when adrenaline ruled. Rian swerved, low and sudden, vanishing into the stalks. The poacher shouted curses, reloading in panic. He tried to drag his fallen companion to his feet, but the man was limp, motionless. A sound broke through the chaos, not a roar, but a deep, vibrating growl that rolled through the ravine like a storm. Rian stepped out again, covered in dust, eyes burning with focus. He approached slowly, head lowered, shoulders rippling with every measured step. The poacher backed away, tripping over a rock, falling hard. Before Rian could strike again, the distant roar of a jeep engine echoed from above the cliffs. Backup was on its way. The poacher heard it too. He scrambled to his feet and fled, abandoning his weapon and the body of the man who had come with him. Patel slumped against the ravine wall, trembling. He watched Rian, breath unsteady but eyes wide not with terror, but awe. The tiger turned his head toward the forest guard, meeting his gaze for a single frozen heartbeat. Not gratitude, not recognition, but understanding. Two beings whose paths had crossed only because the forest itself had forced them into it. Rian walked away first, melting into the bamboo with fading rustles until only the smell of blood remained. Hours later, as dusk bled into the forest, Rian climbed a ridge overlooking the ravine. His wound throbbed, but it was shallow. He licked it clean, watching the patrol jeeps below gather, voices rising, flashlights sweeping. The poacher's body was lifted onto a stretcher. The surviving one had vanished back into the forest, trailing fear and sweat like a wounded animal. Rian knew he'd return someday. Such men always did. But the forest remembered. Night came soft and humid. Fireflies blinked through the undergrowth. Civets screeched in the distance. Somewhere, far away, a herd of elephants rumbled as they crossed a river. Rian resumed his slow patrol, slipping between shadows so naturally it seemed they followed him. The bamboo ravine was still again, but it would never forget the echoes that had shaken it today. Neither would the tiger. For as Rian crossed the ridge and disappeared into the darkness, the shadows did not simply surround him. They walked beside him, as they always had, as they always would in a land where the wild and the human world could meet in a single fatal breath. The night after the ravine incident settled heavy over the forest, carrying with it the scent of rain that had not yet fallen. Rian moved cautiously through the sal groves, his wounds stiff but already beginning to close. Tigers healed quickly when their bodies were given space and darkness and solitude. But solitude was becoming a shrinking luxury in this part of the reserve. Roads wound closer every year, patrols grew more frequent, villagers pushed farther into the buffer zone searching for firewood, fodder, or simply a way to earn another meagre day of survival. Humans were changing the forest, but the forest, in its own silent way, was changing the humans too. Rian reached a shallow stream, lowered his head, and drank. His reflection rippled with each movement. He could barely see the faint streak of dried blood along his flank. The injury annoyed him more than it pained him, a reminder that the ravine had become a battlefield not meant for him. Tigers killed for food, for territory, for survival, humans killed for reasons tigers could not smell or sense. A twig snapped behind him. Rian froze, not from fear, but from instinct. He lifted his head, tasting the air. The scent was familiar. Elephant, young, reckless. And another scent layered faintly behind it, Humans, though far away, the elephant calf burst through the foliage with clumsy confidence, splashing into the shallows as though the world existed solely for his amusement. His small trunk whipped back and forth, sending arcs of muddy water in every direction. His mother emerged seconds later, trumpeting sharply to warn him to return, but the calf ignored her, stomping and sliding in the stream bed. Rian watched them with the neutral indifference of a large predator who had no intention of hunting something so large or provoking a matriarch capable of crushing stone with her weight. The mother elephant lifted her head sharply when she spotted him. Her ears widened, her body stiffened, and a low rumble built in her chest. The calf froze. For a moment the forest balanced on the edge of a breath. Then Rian stepped back, slowly, with the deliberate patience of one who knew that battles avoided were better than battles fought. The matriarch relaxed only when he disappeared behind a thicket. Rian continued north, not knowing that his path was gradually bending toward another human presence, one that travelled with purpose. Forest Ranger Asha Banerjee rode in the passenger seat of a jeep that crawled along the dirt track under beams of morning light. She was new to this sector, reassigned after the incident in the Bamboo Ravine. The department needed stronger patrol coverage, and she was known for her relentless work ethic. The air around her smelled of damp leaves and diesel fumes as the jeep bounced over exposed roots. Patel, now with a bandaged arm and a haunted look he hadn't worn a week ago, briefed her with a voice that wavered only when he mentioned the tiger. "He wasn't attacking us," Patel insisted. "He went for the poachers. Quiet at first, too quiet. If he wanted me dead, I wouldn't be here to tell you." Asha listened, skeptical yet respectful. "Tigers don't protect people, Patel." "I didn't say he protected me," Patel replied sharply. "I said he intervened. Because those men were a threat inside his forest. You don't have to believe me, but I've patrolled here a long time. I've seen that tiger before. He avoids conflict unless it finds him." Asha looked away, watching the trees slip past like dark green pillars. Every tiger is unpredictable. You should remember that before you start assigning motives. Patel didn't argue further. Some experiences lived in marrow, not words. As the jeep travelled deeper, Asha spotted fresh tracks on the trail, large padded prints, powerful, the signature of a dominant male. She knelt to inspect them. The edges were crisp. They were new. "This is him?" she asked. Patel nodded. "Rian." The name hung in the air like a thread connecting two worlds, human and wild. While they studied the prints, Rian himself was watching from a distance, hidden behind tall lantana bushes. He recognized the smell of the forest guards. The memory of the gunshot still pulsed faintly in his flank. He didn't fear them, they rarely posed danger unless cornered, but he did not trust their vehicles. The jeep moved on, leaving dust swirling in its wake. Rian disappeared into the trees behind them. For 3 days the forest remained restless. The surviving poacher had not been caught. Fresh traps were found near the northern ridge, wire snares, baited pits, even a makeshift blind made of bamboo and canvas. Signs of patience and desperation. Poachers did not strike once. They returned again and again until the land gave them something to sell. The patrol increased its coverage, splitting into teams. Patel and Asha took the ravine, while others monitored the elephant corridors. Nights grew louder with the sounds of human footsteps. Rian noticed the shift too. Prey animals retreated. Chital became scarce. Wild boar travelled in tighter, more cautious groups. The balance of the forest tilted. On the 4th evening, the sky turned a bruised purple as clouds gathered heavy with rain. Rian padded across a ridge overlooking a cluster of abandoned huts. Once, villagers lived there before relocation programs had moved them deeper into the buffer zone. Now the structures were used only by langurs, snakes, and occasionally poachers. Tonight, smoke rose from one hut. Rian approached, slow as drifting mist. The scent of cooked meat wafted through the cracks. goat, seasoned with something foreign. The poacher was hiding there, resting, preparing for another attempt. Rian circled the perimeter, the earth softening under the first droplets of rain. He did not attack, not yet. Tigers rarely killed humans unless provoked or starving, but he lingered, his body low, ears flat, tail straight. Watching. The poacher stepped outside with a flashlight, scanning the tree line nervously. He muttered curses under his breath. He knew the rangers were close. He also sensed, without understanding the shape of the fear, that something watched him from the dark. Rian's pupils widened, absorbing every flicker of movement. His muscles stayed loose, ready. But it was the sound from behind that changed the scene. A jeep engine, rolling slow and careful. Asha and Patel emerged seconds later, drenched by the rain now falling with steady rhythm. The poacher panicked. He fired into the air. The shot cracked through the village ruins, sending langurs scrambling up roofs and Rian's heart surging into action. Asha shouted, "Drop the weapon!" The poacher ran, straight toward the ridge, straight toward the tiger. Rian stepped into his path with a low, earth-deep growl that vibrated through the wet soil. Lightning flashed, revealing all three figures in stark white light. A desperate man, two determined rangers, and a tiger whose patience had reached its limit. The poacher fired again, but the gun jammed. He stumbled backward, slipping on the mud, falling hard. The rangers closed in, shouting commands drowned partly by the roar of rising wind. Rihan advanced one step, then another, then stopped. He turned his head, not toward the fallen man, but toward Patel. The ranger stood with rifle raised, breathing hard, rain cascading down his uniform. There was no hostility in Rian's gaze, only recognition. Asha slowly walked around the poacher, kicking the weapon away. "He's done," she said. "Let him go." Patel hesitated, then nodded. Rian took another step back, muscles relaxing. The forest no longer demanded blood tonight, it demanded balance. The rain thickened, drumming on leaves, washing away footprints, scents, the residues of conflict. The poacher was handcuffed and dragged to the jeep. He never took his eyes off the tiger, who watched in absolute silence as humans reclaimed one of their own. When the forest swallowed the sound of the vehicle, Rian finally turned and disappeared into the drenched groves. His coat darkened, his breath steaming in the cool air. For the first time in many seasons, the forest felt momentarily aligned. Its predators, its protectors, and its trespassers all humbled beneath the weight of rain. But balance was never permanent here. As the storm roared overhead, the bamboo ravine whispered with the memory of violence, and the shadows that had walked beside Rian for years lengthened, hinting at trials yet to come. Rival tigers, shifting territories, new roads, new threats, and humans who were learning, slowly and painfully, what it meant to share a land with a creature whose presence could silence a forest with a single step. Rian crossed the ridge, water streaming off his whiskers, and still the shadows followed. As they always had, as they always would.